Hello, my name is David Bush, and this video is going to cover building your strength equation for selecting the 10 teams for the NCAA data analysis competition. So let me switch over to my computer here. And this is essentially going to be a continuation of what I covered in the finding the z-score values for the data that we're using, for the variables we're using, the data we're using. And so here, I already have the z-scores for wins, the z-score for assists, and the z-scores for strength of schedule. Now, I did add to the Excel document the correlations that I found for each of those individual variables. And then I've made some spots here to put weights to those in our equation that we build. So what I'm going to do then is just to start out by having these be about of equal weight. So I'll do like 0.33. And realistically, the weight should add up to 1. So I'm going to actually do the strength of schedule to be 0.34 here, just so that the weights add up to 1. You don't necessarily have to do that, but it's just a good practice because then it helps you balance your choices between the variables a little bit easier. Okay, so now I'm going to make a column for strength, and I'm basically just going to work on putting that formula together in here. So coding it in. And essentially what we're going to do is we're going to have the weights for each of the variables multiplied by the data value. And where if the correlations are positive, we're going to add that in. And if the correlations are negative, we're going to subtract it. So here, I'll start out by getting the 0.33 for the weight for wins. And because I'm planning on auto-filling this down, I'm going to throw a $sign in front of the 3 so that that value doesn't change as I drag the formula down. And then I'm going to multiply that by the z-score for wins in that same row. So we'll get the strength score for that particular team that's in that row. And then to this, I'm going to add the weight for assists. And again, I need a $sign in front of that because I don't want to change. I don't want that reference to get dragged down with it. And I'm going to multiply that by the assist z-score value. And then because the strength of schedule is negatively correlated, I'm actually going to subtract, and then I will do the weight times the strength of schedule data value. And then again, I need to make sure to go back and put that $sign in front of the weight number. So when I drag this down, it will keep the correct reference on the weights, but then I don't have them with the data values because I do want those to follow down here. So now what I'm going to do here is I'll just hit the check mark to enter it, and we get a strength score. And so then if I go and autofill that down, we should be able to get all of the different strengths for the teams that we have listed here. And these are the teams from 2021, basically, or what I'm using for this test. And it would be good to go through and like test against other years as well, just to see how this does against different sets of data. Anyway, so we have our strength values. So the next thing I'm going to do is just work on sorting these. And so I actually want to go through and have these values. So basically like in this, just these values. So I'll just click and highlight over the columns we have for our data. And then I'm actually going to go up to data, and I want to apply a filter to those. And then I'm going to go back over here. And so then for the strength, I'm going to sort that from largest to smallest. Because then what that's going to do is it's going to move the highest strength teams up to the top and the lowest strength teams down to the bottom. And then it can be kind of helpful if you apply a coloring to this column too. So I usually go to like home and then conditional formatting and color scales, and then just do this green to yellow to red. and so green being the higher strength values. And now if I go to the beginning here of the spreadsheet on the far left, and I look at the top 10 teams, these would be the teams that are selected as a part of this equation. And you notice here that we have like 6 wins in here and 5 wins in here, and a number of other teams that winning teams. But we don't have any tournament wins, and we also don't have any Cinderella teams in here too. So those are important things to note as far as for making adjustments and putting this equation together. Now, something that you can do then at this point is that if you're not happy with that, you can go through and adjust your weights. So maybe you think that season wins are more important than the other variables. And so maybe we put a weight here of like 0.7. Okay, and you're going to see the strength values get updated. And then maybe we do the same amount of weight between assists and strength of schedule. So we'll do like 0.15 and 0.15 here. And then you can see that here our strength values change dramatically. So then we need to go and resort from largest to smallest according to strength. And then we can go back and look at our teams and see if this was an improvement. So first off, I like the fact that here, I like the fact that that number 5 team got moved up to the top, right? So this is in the 10-point slot. So 10 times 5, 50 points right there. That's great. We also have a couple of Cinderella teams now that have been moved up into our teams that are selected. But unfortunately, one of those Cinderella teams had 0 wins, so that doesn't really help us in the bonus side of things. And the other Cinderella team only has 1 win, so not great there. We lost our team with 6 wins with this weighting, so that's also a problem. But there's some different things we can look at. And so now the idea here is that you would go and adjust your weights more and try to find what you think would be the best choice of weights between these variables. And there's a number of different ways you can do that. And then maybe you even decide that you need to either take out some variables or add in some other variables and continue to make adjustments to your equation. Anyway, so I will stop this video here. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to get in contact with me.